So I'm wondering if this Mustang was the ship I hit, but I'm not seeing evidence of my ship around, unless it's this. See, this still looks like... Oh, no, no, no. This is my ship right here. So this is me. So my body should be... Look up and make sure I'm not going to hit anything. My body should be right around here. Wait, 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 wait. What's this? What's this? What's this? Ah! Did I find me? Guys, I'm going to say it. Persistence is awesome. So one of the cool things, like I was saying, about the 135 is that it has this little hold here. So what we are going to do is scoop my body. Line it up. Actually, let's get it as perfectly straight as possible. See, I really want to save that armor. There's one reason I play this game. It's for starboard. Okay. Close. Is it going to keep it in there? Is it going to keep it in there? Is it going to keep it in there? Ha ha! Ha ha! My body. Is it in there? Pez has done a great thing today. Okay, so this one's kind of a surprise because I actually don't own this ship. So it's got to be a loaner for something, and I have no idea what. This is the Vanguard. Okay, this is the Vanguard Harbinger, which I believe is the torpedo bomber. So I have no idea why this is in my hangar, because most of the ships that I have that I don't have yet are civvy ships. So, I mean, I don't have anything that I think this would be the loaner for. So no idea. No idea. But let's just take it out. Okay, yeah, this is the torpedo bomber. It has size 5 torpedoes, which aren't the biggest in the world. Like, I mean, you could tell that the Retaliator and the Eclipse both have size 9s. This one carries size 5s, which is the same size as the Gladiator bomber carries. Obviously, this is a heavy fighter, so its range will be quite a bit further than the Eclipse. It doesn't have as many torpedoes as the Retaliator, but its firepower is heavier because it is that fighter role. It does have a cool folding out animation. I like the way this thing, I don't know why I said animation weird, but I did, and we were all there for it. Vanguards, you can solo them. They're perfectly capable of soloing. They are effective with 2 people. You would probably want to pull the rocket pods on this one for something ballistic or energy weapon. I'd suggest energy weapon, just that way your turret gunner doesn't run out of ammunition and then have nothing to do. This one's just kind of specialized. There's other ships that are better at doing this job than this ship.
Please visit again.
Again, no idea why this is in my hangar, but here we are. Vanguards are pretty cool ships. Pretty cool. They're good companions for mid and large ships because they'll have the range to keep up with them. So a lot of people I see are kind of like, never get a Vanguard, never get any ship other than like an Arrow and a Gladius, because they're the meta fighters and they'll be able to do everything. But they can't do everything. They don't have range. So when we get to Pyro and Armor's in, those ships are going to be at a significant disadvantage in some fight. It's just, this is going to very much be a game of rock, scissors, paper. And while you might have very, very sharp scissors in the Arrow and the Gladius, rock's still going to beat the crap out of them. So just something to keep in mind. So let's get on up and land this thing. So one thing I wouldn't recommend doing with the Vanguard is going with an all ballistic build, which this thing is. Those 4 nose guns there, the Combine, which is the huge gun hanging off the nose, and the rocket pods. This thing is all ballistics. The advantage of a long-range ship is that it can go out long range and isn't reliant on anything. If it has ammunition, once it's out of ammunition and torpedoes and ammo for everything, it's useless. So, yeah, definitely go with at least a couple energy weapons if you get one of these things, would be my advice, at least later in the game. So again, this is a ship I'm pretty sure I don't own, so it's got to be a loaner for something. Again, you'll notice it's a Vanguard. In this case, this is a Hoplite. So this one is the drop ship. The funny thing about this is I have actually owned the Hoplite in the past, because when I was with PXP, Planet Express, great group of people, you'll never hear me talk bad about them. They, or rather for them, I was going to be a dropship pilot. And this ship, which apparently comes pre-damaged, sad, is the dropship variant. It has missiles, it has guns, it can carry troopers. It can't carry a vehicle, but pretty much everything else it can do. And so you can see it's got gun rack here, so plenty of guns, enough room for people to sit there. Looks like 6 people. I think there's another 2 jump seats up here if I'm not wrong. Yeah, but it pulls the bed of the Warden. So basically the Warden is the base model of the Vanguard series, and it has 2 beds and like a kitchen area. It's made for going out long distances. Each of the variants pull those beds for something specialized, like the Sentinel, which is the E-Warfare one, pulls it for, you've basically got an E-Warfare suite here. I think that one has a bed too, but the other Warden, the one that I just pulled that I can't remember the name of, that has the torpedoes, it pulls the living area for torpedoes. So again, this one, even though it's a long-range fighter, it's not the kind of thing that you could actually take long range, because you wouldn't be able to log out in it. It doesn't have a shoilet or anything like that. So this is ideal for basically carrying troops in a pretty heavily armed and armored fighter that can hold its own in a fight. Again, I don't own this one, so it's not part of the plan now. I do have a couple drop ships, but this isn't one of them. But you could do a lot worse for a dropship than this thing, especially if you intend to fight, because of all the dropships, this is probably the one that would be the scariest to face so far, just because of the sheer firepower this thing can bring. You could put a size 5 gun up there, and I think the nose guns there are size 3. And it's got 2 size 3s on that turret, and it's got a bunch of missiles, just being a Warden. Or I mean, just being a Vanguard. Again, it has the same takeoff animation as the other ones. Eventually, and I'm curious now, no. So one of the things you'll eventually be able to do is pull those wings in as part of the animation while having your landing gear up. So kind of like you can do with the Corsair, how you can change its wing configuration even while it's just sort of normal flying. So while you're in space or something, you can pull your wings in and have a lower profile. Just kind of an idea. Hoplite is pretty cool. I dig it. I don't need it, so it's not actually in my fleet. So it's a holding spot for something, and I couldn't honestly tell you what. I'll bet this is the loaner for the Legionnaire. I do own a Legionnaire, which is a boarding ship. So that makes sense. So that's a mystery solved. Still no idea why I have the torpedo boat, though. Torpedo version of this. Alright, so unlike the last two, this one I know I do have. So this is the Vanguard Warden. So of the 3 Vanguards I've shown you, this one is actually the heavy fighter version. Again, I tend to deck this one out in energy weapons, just because I figure that that is kind of the role it'll play when I am out in a fleet that's traveling system to system and setting up trade locations out in the deep dark. That will be kind of the goal, is not landing all that often. So the Warden is a true heavy fighter. Of all of the versions that I've shown you, this is the one that is actually the fighter. And if you've picked up on the pattern yet, you'll notice that, again, this is a ship that I do not plan on flying in the end game. This will be one that I hand off to 2 people, or at least 1 person, to help escort me, because this ship has the range to keep up with the bigger ships of the fleet. It only needs occasional refueling versus a light fighter that's going to have to be refueled constantly. Typically with the light fighters, you're going to want to have them setting up on like a Liberator or a Kraken and just sitting there until they're needed. The easiest way to win a game of rock, scissors, and paper is to have rock, scissors, and paper. And that is part of the goal of this fleet. That's funny. Is that a camera? Funny. Okay, so this is the Warden. Since I do own this one, I'll show you. You got your toilet here. You've got like a little kitchen here. You've got a storage area right there for your guns. I think there's a storage area down here. Storage unit here for clothes and armor, what have you. Again, this is not the dropship, so these guys should not be suiting up in armor and weapons. They should be flying this ship. In the Hoplite, that's not the case. Engineer station, that's probably gonna be your co-pilot doing it. That's kind of cool. I don't think that button was working last time. Sure is now. Avionics. Eventually you'll have your servers in there. I think a few of the components are outside. You've got another one right here, which is radar. Shield generator, power plant. Yeah, all of your components are right here. Then your guy flies here, and the turret comes down from right there. Again, 2 people can comfortably live on this ship. Last IAE, I melted a whole bunch of ships that I felt didn't fit my server or my plan for being in the verse. The goal was to kind of build a fleet that would be self-reliant, so that if a bunch of people in Auroras joined the org, I could give them the ships that I felt would make a good cluster around my ship. Kind of make a good core to the Carnival, even if people didn't have ships, they could just use mine, is kind of the goal here. So this is one of those ships. And the Vanguard, with its range, is particularly useful for a fleet that travels system to system out in the deep black and trades with pirates, allegedly. I wanted to set these all up with the different skins I had. I have no idea why I have this many skins for the Vanguard series. They're all interchangeable, so if you buy one for any Vanguard, it works on all of them. I don't know why I'm getting Fulbright. Is the sun coming up? Must be. So the missiles there. Yeah, all in all, this used to be the meta fighter, and I think when armor comes back in, it'll be a top 10 again. One of the things that I keep hearing from people, and I'll kind of swing back to this when I get into, right now I'm going through Aegis, and next I'm going through Anvil, which just happen to be mostly military ships. So I'm mostly talking about their combat capabilities. But one of the things that drives me nuts is when people start comparing non-combat ships to combat ships. Like I was telling somebody in chat, probably on Reddit, that the 400i was a great daily driver, and then somebody else responded with, no, it's terrible, you can't even fight an arrow in it. And it's like, yeah, because it's like a luxury cargo ship. Why would you be fighting anyone in it? Like that's not its role. Like, I mean, a Ferrari could get owned by an M1 Abrams tank. That doesn't mean that the Ferrari isn't good at what it was designed to do. Prius has much better gas mileage than the Ferrari. Doesn't make either one better than the other, although I think some people would argue that. Just means that in its specialty, it can do what it's designed to do. So I tend to judge ships what they're designed to do. This one, its gameplay isn't completely in the game because armor isn't in yet, and there's not really a great reason to travel huge distances because Stanton isn't a very big system. But once Pyro drops, I think you'll see the Vanguard will be far more popular in Pyro, because the Vanguard will probably be able to travel most of the way across Pyro, whereas ships like the Arrow and the Gladius won't. Okay, so we're on to the next manufacturer, finally. I didn't realize I had that many Aegis ships, but apparently I do. Now we're on to Anvil. So this is the Anvil Arrow, which, unlike the other fighters I've shown you, other than the Gladius, this one actually is one of the meta fighters, which is probably always going to be the case. It's a very small ship, so it has a small cross-section. It lies pretty flat, so when it's facing you, there's not a lot that you can lock onto and hit. And it's quick and nimble, which makes it durable in that sense. It doesn't have much in the way of armor, so once armor comes in, you're kind of screwed. All told, great little fighter. It's going to have very short range, so that's going to kind of be its weakness. Other than that, it's going to be pretty ace at going and popping heavy fighters like the Vanguard, probably. That is going to kind of be the kryptonite of the heavy fighters. So, I mean, you can see it is pretty flat, and if it's facing you, that's not a big cross section to hit, especially when it's zipping around. And this thing is practically a racer. It's so quick. We'll show you here in just a second. All right, so Yela is just up into our starboard. We could actually fly out of this thing right now, but let's go ahead, ease ourselves out of the hangar. I am not going to increase my altitude at all here, because I want you to see how quick this thing actually accelerates, and it is pretty ridiculous. If you want a meta fighter, this is it. Yeah. So here we are. We're at a dead stop. I am going to point towards this. I'm going to crank my velocity limiter, which is right here, all the way up. Now I'm going to punch it. Yeah, this thing speeds up pretty quick. So the guns it carries aren't super impressive, but they're very effective. I think it's got 2 size 3s, 2 size 2s, carries 6 missiles, which I think are 4 size 1s and 2 size 2s. But if you load this thing out with pretty much any loadout on this thing, it's going to run out of ammo pretty quick, but pretty damn effective. Yeah, and we can already take off, which is impressive. So I do have 2 arrows there currently showing in my stable, in my hangar. In reality, I only own one of these, so it's got to be a loaner for some ship. And I actually looked it up. The reason that I had that torpedo version of the Vanguard is because of the Perseus. So the Perseus, you get a hammerhead, and the Vanguard Sentinel? I think it's the Sentinel. I think the Warlock is the E-Warfare one. So yeah, it's got to be the Sentinel. But this ship and the Gladius, but especially this one, is one of the most fun ships to fly. I mean, it's just pretty much instantly responsive, which is one of the reasons why it's devastating as a fighter, because it's small, it's fast, it's super maneuverable, which makes it hard to hit. Once armor is in, your armor is gonna be your maneuverability. If you get hit, it is gonna hurt. Right now, it is extremely hard to hit this ship, and that will likely not change. So its downsides are going to be armor and range, but if you can either run missions that are close to a location, oh, look at that. So that little icon there, if you've not seen that yet, means that there's salvage. But yeah, this ship either run it close to home. So if I were based at Grim Hex, I would be doing bounty missions in the area of Grim Hex, for example. If you're going to be going somewhere like Pyro, your best bet is to get a friend or an org, like the Carnival, that has a Liberator. So the Gladius, I feel like I should be talking about the Gladius when I talk about this one, because they're kind of contemporaries of one another. This is kind of Anvil's answer to the Gladius. Whereas the Gladius will probably be a little more tanky than this ship. This ship is small, which I mentioned several times, but that's also an advantage because while it sits up pretty tall with those wings folded like that, it can fit in more ships than the Gladius can, because you only need to be able to fit that sort of cross section. So on something like Liberator, you might be able to fit, pulling a number out of a hat, 9 of these where you'd only be able to fit 3 Gladiuses, even though they're both light fighters. So that's the Arrow. I do have 1 in my fleet. I won't be flying it probably, but I'll be handling it off to an ace pilot to engage things that are in my immediate vicinity or in the immediate vicinity of the Carnival, or the core of the Carnival. Carnival will, if we're run right, if we have enough cells, enough people joining up, kind of spreading across the system. This one, since it's mine, I would expect it to stay near my BMM. But yeah, great little fighter. Okay, and here we have got the Anvil Pisces Red, or I think it's Rescue is what they call it. It's kind of like the other Pisces, except it, I believe it has smaller guns. Does it even have guns? No, it's still got the 2 guns. So I do have a base Pisces in my hangar at the moment, but it is a loner, so I'm not going to pull that. I do have a Pisces Expedition, which I will be pulling next. Just for expedience sake, if I have a bunch of duplicates, I'm only going to show you 1 of them. I figured that's probably fair. But the Pisces, the rescue version, they actually pack a fair amount in here. You got your jump drive, your cooler. Cool thing about the Pisces is that it actually does have a jump drive, being a snub. You've got all of your care products up here for healing someone. You got your med bed here that can heal, I think, tier 3 injuries. Remember that injuries go opposite, so tier 3 injuries are the lightest injury, tier 2 is serious, and tier 1 you're basically incapacitated. But yeah, you've got your medical assistant here. I don't think you can regenerate at this bed. You can only heal yourself of a tier 3 injury. You got a jump seat there. So this is the perfect ambulance of all the ships in the verse, the medical ships. This one is truly an ambulance. So if you set your character up for that purpose, you're in business. The Pisces is one of the smaller snubs that actually has an interior. So it fits in a fair amount just because it's short and stubby. Like it doesn't have a wide wingspan. The one thing that might get you on this ship is the relative thickness of the body. So, for example, things that will fit the Archimedes or the Merlin would not fit this. And it really doesn't want to open these today. There. Pisces is a great snub. Very, very good utility on this ship. And this one will be... I am still torn what I am going to run on my Carrack. I guess, again, I probably won't be using my Carrack. I'll be letting someone else use it. So it'll probably be up to them. But as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a question of what utility you want. If you want the cargo capabilities of the sort of runabout version, or if you want the medical abilities of this one. I don't think there really is a wrong answer there. They're both pretty useful. So for snubs, these are, I believe, size 1 or 2 guns. It can shoot. This is not the ship or the snub that I would pick if I wanted to pick a fight with someone. That is not its purpose. Its guns are more just for show than to actually damage people. Just kind of enough to give ground troops or vehicles kind of a little incentive to stay back a little bit. But if you're using this ship to hunt arrows, you're doing it wrong. Other than that, flies pretty well, pitches and rolls pretty well. Not as well as an Archimedes or a Merlin, but I mean, you can fly through an asteroid field at 430 meters per second and not feel like you're living on the edge of your seat. So in that sense, pretty good. And again, very small ship, so you're going to be able to fit it into small places. And that means that you can run it into caves, and just gives you a lot of options. It's a great little ship. Probably the best utility snub out there. And the medical version is just that much more. Like if you're running bunker missions in this thing, it won't resurrect you, but it will heal up those annoying tier 3 injuries. Okay, and so this bad boy is the Pisces Expedition. So my recommendation to you is, if you have a choice... Why are all my ships coming out damaged? Anyway, my recommendation for you is that if you have a choice between the regular Pisces and the Expedition, get the Expedition. So why? Because the Expedition comes with 2 extra guns, and I believe you can kit those out. Those are gimbaled size ones, so you can put size 2s, fixed size 2s on there. Again, I would never try really dogfighting unless my back were really up against the wall, because the Pisces is not a dogfighter. That is not what it is designed for. But if you could get 4 guns for the price of 2 and everything else is the same, might as well get more guns. So both the Pisces, the C8 and the C8X, this is the C8X, this is the Expedition, has room for cargo over here, and then 2 jump seats. So whereas the medical version only had the 1 jump seat and the bed, this one has 2 jump seats, so you can comfortably carry around 3 people. This is probably this is sort of what I mean when I said that the choice between the medical Pisces or this Pisces, it's kind of a toss-up. It really depends on how you're going to be using your Carrack. Like if you're doing exploration where you're going down into caves and stuff like that, or you know, you might encounter pirates, then maybe not a bad idea to carry the rescue Pisces, because then you can heal people if they're going to be getting injured. This one, the extra guns, the cargo, if you're moving stuff up from the planet and you don't want to risk your whole Carrack, this one's probably the way to go. It just kind of comes down to taste, and that's one of the cool things about this game, is that so much of it, because they're doing such a good job with the rock, scissors, paper, that a lot of it is just going to come down to what do you want to do. And again, this is a special skin. This one is the Rooster, I believe. It looks like a hawk, doesn't it? Chicken, maybe? Might be chicken. But it's crimson and black, which is 2 of the colors for the Carnival, so we'll take it. This is just kind of a great runabout. I will use the Expedition to run bunker missions, just because it's small enough. It can kind of avoid, it can land a lot closer to the bunkers and not be taken out by the turrets. Other than that, I believe the rescue is a hair faster than this one, which is kind of the payoff for the smaller guns and the lack of jump seat and the lack of cargo. It's a little bit faster. This one will probably have a hair more armor, I would guess, but it does have the 4 guns, so I mean that kind of makes up for everything.